Violence in video games. Hello everyone, I'm Suspicious Penguin, that one penguin you see at the back of your bus on the way home sharpening his axe, and welcome to Suspicious Penguin Gaming. In this Let's Talk, I'm going to discuss a pretty basic thing when it comes to video game topics. Video game violence. Okay, let's get some of the usual arguments out of the way. First off, mostly thanks to the media, when people think about video game violence, their minds instantly go to things like the Columbine shootings and far more recent tragedies, which is generally awful. It sucks that gaming is even associated with something that's just such an awful part of history and an awful part of people's lives. In the Columbine shootings, it was said that the shooter was obsessed with violent video games, like Call of Duty and Doom. Well, duh. First off, of course they play these games. They are violent, horrible people. They're gonna play a bit more violent games and not gonna get the same kick out of Mario or Snake. The point is, correlation does not equal causation. Violent people play violent video games. That does not mean that these video games cause violence. Many people have been trying to prove the link between violence video games and violence in real life for decades and are still going. It certainly doesn't help that the media is constantly telling you that everything that you thought was benign and innocent in your household is secretly trying to kill you. However, and fortunately, there are just as many studies attempting to disprove this link between violence in real life and violence in video games. But for the most part, these studies often cancel each other out as there are just so many on either side. So, rather than looking into some more conventional arguments on the topic, I would instead be viewing gaming in a manner similar to Christopher Ferguson of Stetson University, who views gaming much more as a medium of entertainment. Ferguson recently published an article detailing his findings into his studies, which attempted to find correlations between real-life rates of violence in society with that of violence in media. Hey, get off your porn. You're gonna learn stuff this video. So, similarly, throughout the rest of this video, I will not view gaming as a separate form of media or hobby, but rather as a medium of entertainment, similar to that of TV or film. So, from this context, let's look at one of the more recent outcries of video game violence. Late last year, GTA 5 was banned from Target stores in Australia, no relation to the American brand, being accused of encouraging sexual violence. A petition was formed by 3 women, and it got over 40,000 signatures. Now, to be fair, 40,000 people is a large number of people. Obviously, there was a kind of consensus, and this wasn't just 2 or 3 people full of hot air blowing off steam. However, I doubt many that had signed this petition had played GTA 5, or had played any video game for that matter, and most of them were likely swayed by the very provocative and biased nature of the petition itself. It described GTA as a game that encourages players to murder women for entertainment. The incentive is to commit sexual violence against women, then abuse or kill them to proceed or get health points. Anyone who has played GTA, or GTA 5 for that matter, can tell you what bollocks this is. And luckily, there are now petitions in Australia defending the game and trying to get it resold back in these stores. Now, while there are a slew of arguments to explain why these specific criticisms of GTA are simply unfounded, my point is that too often people will view video games from one point of view, one perspective, and often out of context, making very large assumptions on what the rest of the game actually entails. Saying that GTA 5 is a game that's based upon violence against women is the same thing as seeing a snapshot of the horse head scene from The Godfather and simply concluding, this film was about decapitating horses. Poor innocent horses. This is sleeping with its head. Oh, this is sick. This is create a petition to shut it all down immediately. This line of argument is insane and frankly a little ignorant, as they're criticizing and labeling a piece of media which they clearly do not fully understand. So why are people so quick to hate and blame on video games? They obviously don't see it on the same level as other forms of media, despite the fact that in Ferguson's study, he actually discovered that during times of increased rates of consumption of more violent video games, if anything, youth violence decreased. My best guess as to why video games are still the scapegoat that they are is because they are still very much the new kid on the block. And they're very easy to pick on, as they're not yet the established forms of media that we see in things like TV and film. That's not to say that these forms of media aren't also under fire. They are, but not to the extent that video games are. The way I see it, the evolution of video games can be compared pretty easily to that of the film industry, just happening way faster. Similar to games, people were intrigued with film when it first came around, and very much enjoyed it as a form of media. However, as the media, art form and technology each evolved and grew more significant, it became under more and more fire for the potential effect it could be having, especially in the 70s, when a slew of more violent films was being released. However, these criticisms began to die down after film became more of an established form of medium, especially after we began seeing it more and more in our own homes with things like VHS and DVD. My personal opinion is that a similar thing is going to happen with gaming, probably though at a much faster rate, and that the misunderstanding and fear of video game violence will be more understood and accepted in the future as it becomes more an established form of media and art. When perhaps older generations think of video games, their minds likely go to games like Tetris or Mario, or perhaps they don't even know what to think, and stories like the ones we heard about in Australia likely scare the shit out of them. As I said, however, gaming is evolving insanely quickly, and when I'm asked about video games, my mind goes to games like Journey, Call of Duty, Halo, The Last of Us, games that can tell really deep and compelling stories and invoke very real emotion the same way that any book, film, or even music can. It's also a hell of a lot of fun, allowing us to express a more competitive nature at times, as well as letting us blow off some steam through exploration, strategy, and yes, even violence. I personally imagine that in the not too distant future, these kind of arguments are going to become more and more meaningless, and arguably already have. The gaming industry is one of the largest and most profitable forms of entertainment in any industry right now. And I've been playing video games since I was 12 and enjoying them immensely. And look at me, I haven't ended up too violent. So thank you for sticking around for this Let's Talk. I do apologise, it was a bit rambly at times. They are just my kind of main thoughts on the subject, and I wanted to touch on less conventional arguments on the topic as well. So thanks for sticking around. Do let me know about your thoughts on this video. Do you think I hit some good points, or do you think I really was just rambling? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know about any other future topics you might be interested in me discussing. I'll be happy to take any suggestions. Really, I'm already running out of ideas. Thanks again, guys. Feel free to like and subscribe for more videos on these kind of topics, and I will see you again on the next Suspicious Penguin Gaming.